If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Puja, before we get started, go. Yes. I have a question for you. Yes. If you were advising Will Smith, what would you tell him to do?
You know, it's so funny you brought that up. My husband was just like, hey, you guys should talk about that. Because he's like, I'm pretty sure they're going to want to talk about it because it's like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So my interpretation on this was I didn't actually watch the clip because I didn't have a chance to today, but I wasn't sure what he did, but that's out of character. Like, I feel like he's not somebody who I've ever seen in that capacity.
Exactly.
Like, never had that kind of altercation. So I know it must have been sensitive and hit a nerve because I know that his relationship, they're like in an open relationship. I mean, the book, my husband just read it and he said, you should read it. So it's on my next to read will.
Was that Jada Pinkett's book?
It's his.
It's his book.
His book.
His story. But they talk about how extensively they've used therapy and for what reasons. And I think that some of it was just, communicating the need for them to have like their open relationship without being, judged and putting it out there. So I don't know. The only thing that tells me is someone like him that I've never seen in a public forum behave in that way. Tells me what was said may have had a personal connection there. Maybe it was some sort of like direct thing. I don't know if there's a connection to him and Jada, and that could be why. Because I know recently there was some issue with him sharing. Jada had voiced her affair on live TV,
right?
And so I know that he had an emotional response to that, which obviously for a man with his like background, with his like the persona, right? The whole Fresh Prince thing, he like crying is a pretty important way to express that. Could tell you it hurt him. So I think maybe it was just a sensitive thing about that, and he took it out on him because he happened to be there and he said it. I mean, he slapped him, which is interesting. He didn't punch him.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't know. What's your take on that?
Well, I think they were saying that open hands not assault in some states. So maybe he knew his rights.
Maybe he knew his laws.
Yeah.
I almost feel
but
like.
But do you think he kind of planned it, or just like I thought it was a prank?
I thought it was a prank first.
Can't be real.
I thought it was a prank at first, but when he was like sat down and he was like, keep my wife's effing name out of your mouth. I was like, oh, yeah. So I was like, yeah.
So what did he say? Is what I'm curious to know.
Well, he said he was making a joke like Jada Pinkett could be, G.I. Jane. Yeah, G.I. Jane too. If they come up with that, you definitely got it.
He was like, yeah, hey Jada, you looking nice. Good to see you. Can't wait to see G.I. Jane Part 2.
Because she's like pretty cut, like works out like that.
Nah, because she has a disease.
Because her hair is as low as mine.
Yeah, she has a disease called what is it called?
Yeah, but the movie was really just about Demi Moore when she cut her hair.
Alopecia, yeah. So she has that, and that's why.
Yeah.
And you got to factor in if a man is sensitive about their hair, a woman is not supposed to lose their hair. It's like, you know what I mean? So think about it for that. And she's been vulnerable about it.
Now, when I watched the clip, Reggie doesn't agree with me on this one. When I watched the clip, I saw him laugh at first, but Jada wasn't laughing.
I said he was laughing because Will Smith can take take it with the best of them. He's just giggling. And here's the thing. He didn't make it. It was not offensive. He was like, no, it was a nice one. He was like, G.I. Jane 2, and and that's where he left it. That's where Chris Rock left it.
But it was almost like.
But he responded to his woman. Like the woman has if your woman, they're old school, traditional in a sense.
Traditional.
He is like no. I'm saying as far as Will's like I'm gonna protect my wife.
Their reality.
Exactly. So it's like I'm gonna defend my wife, honor. So basically, he saw Jada was pissed, just like he didn't attend the Academy Awards before because Jada said it was racist, so he stayed home with his wife. So at the end of the day, that's how they support each other.
You sure she didn't say you ain't like Tupac? You ain't hard enough for me.
I've got two takes. It's either one, Jada's health situation is a little worse than they're sharing, and maybe that's why that hit home as hard as it did.
That could be.
So that was one theory, and the second theory is I just feel like Chris took the brunt of the public drag that Will has been through with Jada in the last year or two. Is kind of how I feel about it. And I might be wrong about that.
Yeah,
but,
he's been getting it.
And the truth is, the circumstances involved is something that they agree to. I mean, it's still tough to have these conversations and have your life unfold in front of the world.
Yeah.
But that joke, from an outsider looking in, didn't really warrant the response. So there's got to be something else there.
Yeah, it was a lot deeper because
that was a light joke too.
We've always seen Will Smith, like Puja said. We've always seen him in all the shows. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, great actor, always inspirational as well.
Agreed.
And for him to he actually thought about it because, like I said, from my vantage point, I saw him laugh. But then the camera went to Jada. Jada was like, it was almost like she said, like watching John Q. Do something, John.
Yeah.
And so, that's right.
Yeah.
That's my lady. So, but then, I thought he would have probably talked to him after, like anybody else would do. I don't think anybody.
Well, here's the thing: we don't know if they talked to each other after. We don't know if he contacted him after. We just know.
But it
he
doesn't
apologized
matter.
to Academy.
It doesn't matter now. It wouldn't matter to me. You just slap me. Why I want to talk to you later for?
Well, you just said that.
No,
right? You just mentioned it.
No, but I'm saying is I would have talked to him later, versus going and slapping him first and then talking to him later.
So that's probably what took place. We don't know.
Or the slap was sort of an impulsive thing. He might have an issue with impulsivity. A lot of artists tend to have very neurodivergent minds, right? So part of that, like we had, I pointed out one of the things is social skills is very impaired. How you respond, like you can't control sometimes, like what may be that trigger that your brain doesn't have the brakes. It just your brain's moving faster. It's telling your head just do this because that's what I feel like doing right now. But the brakes on that.
I don't know, Puja. He held that hand kind of long. When you see the video,
I have to see this. I have to watch
when
this.
you get a chance,
you gotta watch
it.
Like, you gotta watch it.
It wasn't like a cha. Nah, he kind of brought it back, and it felt like it hung around for a little bit, and then he let it fly.
I mean, I think it's kind of messed up. Well, not kind of. It is. Anytime you talk about health issues, right? Like, I didn't even get the joke. I was like, what? Because she's so in shape? That's how I took it.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's just because
I didn't know either.
Demi Moore shaves her head in the movie to
with
the guys.
I
mean, that was just the gist,
But I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know she had a issue like that either. I had no clue that she had.
I mean, it could just be, that's alopecia areata is usually just it's a broader symptom of like other autoimmune conditions.
Yeah.
So she could have lupus. She could have cancer. We don't know, and if it's lupus, is autoimmune conditions affect women a lot, and that's one of the things that happens. So I think, and especially as far as I'm concerned, a lot of like Black indigenous women of color are very, very, I think, self-conscious about the hair because there's always this like, you have to have it straight. You have to have it, it to fit in.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I'm seeing this now where everyone's like embracing their hair and their, the way it is. I want to with mine. So I just like, it's like a frizzy, mess. But the point being, I can't even compare it to, right? Like it's relative. I used to have like, for example, if you look at it from my point of view, I used to have a lot more hair and it was thicker and healthier. And over time, as you age, life happens, stress, like environmental things that happen in your body, you start to lose it. So yeah, someone who's like, conscious of it. But when you have someone who's struggling with a serious health condition, we don't know. It's her right to have privacy. It could be more than, just balding, and it's in poor taste. Why bring that up? It just doesn't seem like a thing. But yes, I don't know if Will Smith should have necessarily deserved a smack. But I think a smack versus a punch is more of like, for lack of a better term again, I just bitch slapped
That's
you.
what I'm saying.
Right?
I punked
How are
you.
you gonna do that?
Actually,
Like,
no,
that's
as a
what maybe
dude,
Jada
I think,
would've done.
I think
Man
as
wanna
a dude,
punch.
you take the punch a little better. When you get slapped, you're like, oh hell no, did this dude just slap me? Like,
if you know Will
somebody
Smith,
gotta die.
that's like Will
Somebody
Smith's style.
gotta
If you know
die.
Will Smith, that's his
I
style.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But do you think so? What was I heard? He just like Chris Rock just sort of finished the announcement and just kept going like nothing happened.
No,
he
he paused for a second. He was like, "Really? I just got punched. I got slapped by Will Smith." And then he made a comment and said, "This is the best. This is the best TV ever."
Yeah.
Oh,
So he, I mean,
yeah.
but he was taken back for a minute. Like he had to really.
Nah, he was shook for a while.
He was.
He was stuttering.
He was taken back for a minute.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I still think that
I know.
speaks to his
Jada
showmanship,
didn't go up
though.
there and-
to,
No,
like,
it does. It does. He definitely kept his professionalism.
yeah, his composure, like to get slapped.
yeah.
I don't know if he.
on front stage and still maintain and keep it going. Like,
I think he had no choice. I mean,
what
was he going to do?
Nobody,
Well, he could have walked off. He
nobody
got
prepares
assaulted.
to get slapped on national television.
He was assaulted. He could have walked off.
or hit him back, which he
Yeah.
didn't. So that so that right there is what tells me he had the filter in that moment to be like, hold on, I am doing something else. Like he could compartmentalize the situation, right? Whereas Will Smith probably just got so emotionally like dysregulated from it because he probably thought it was funny, got in trouble for laughing at it, and then probably was like, you know what, no, it's not okay. Because I think that it was probably poor taste to make fun of any kind of disorder, and I
Yeah.
think that's what maybe alluded to. But yeah, especially like his wife who's there, and so I think that he probably reacted out of personal like I'm not going to be able to compartmentalize this. But he could have also made a joke and used his wit to get back at him, you know.
Agreed.
But do we know if Chris Rock knew the condition of Jada Pinkett?
I'm sure he did.
Oh, I didn't know about it.
They're in Hollywood. They know about it, man.
You can't assume that.
Nah, if you're a comedian, they do the most research, man. They're one of the most brilliant minds. They know
I
they
think
know about
you're
the
giving
topics
a lot
and
of
subjects they
credit.
talk about.
I think you have to care about someone or something to like invest time and energy into it.
I think he's a person. They were in the front row, and he looks and he just goes because that's how he is.
So that first off, we're acting like this doesn't happen at every other award show. Like this is what happens. Like
Yeah,
people
but he-
go there, you get roasted on whether it's your weight, whether it's some type of scandal that's happening in the news, whether it's something what you're wearing. Like this is par for the course. Was it in bad taste? Absolutely. I'm not I'm not going to argue that. But to act like what Chris Rock did was like so far outside of the realm of what normally happens at these shows.
It wasn't.
If anybody was out of the norm, it was Will. I mean, out of character,
Right.
Yes.
out of place, and really, he's lucky Chris Rock didn't take it to a place where he's like, I'm gonna press charges because then that's a whole nother avenue, like a whole nother set of issue that we're dealing with right there. So
Yeah.
But
But we also don't know, if they like had some other deeper issues.
Well, they've had
before
beef
the show
before.
came up. Right. Oh, they did. See, yeah, I didn't
Yep.
know that, but I'm assuming they did. There had to be something personal there, a connection to Jada somewhere. So
No, they definitely had some beef from what I've heard. Back in the past with the other Academy Award that he hosted, so he was just a presenter on this one. So there was definitely some beef.
yeah.
well,
Yeah, because I can't imagine what would drive someone like Will Smith, who's been in the media, has had a lot of weird. He's been tell-all in his book, so there's nothing that should have surprised him. So I wonder what happened.
I might get his book now because of this.
maybe
Yeah, my
really.
husband loved it. He's put it on my next to queue to read. He's like, you should read this. I was like, okay, done.
It's
but
funny,
They're
I'm-
very open.
I'm anticipating more of a negative blowback than a positive one, to be honest with you, as far as Will. I mean, even with it being out of character, and I love Will, and personally, I'm like, wow, I can't believe you just slapped Chris Rock. This is going to go down in history. When we look at like what happened in 2010 or 2020, like a decade of highlights, this is going to be one of them. But I think it's not going to trend favorably.
Well, they're going to have security now for sure in that front row.
They're gonna have a lot of protocol now. Protocols, and they're gonna probably say, "Hey, no violence." They're gonna state that, and probably the jokes are gonna tone down. Let's be fair here. You go to these Academy Awards. If you're a serious actor, I mean, it's all considered a roast. They're roasting the shit out of you, and if you had a tough year like Will Smith, or past couple years with your personal life going out for people to make fun of, it's gonna push buttons, and he's there, and that was the second joke made about his wife, because the first one was like, oh, Jada, Oh, you married? Oh yeah, Jada.
First off, let's
Regina
be
Hall.
fair. If we're being fair, who put Will on Front Street? It wasn't Chris Rock. If Will is
Oh,
feeling
yeah, it's Will
some kind
Smith. Yeah,
of
I
way
know, it's Will
about
Smith.
his last
His wife,
year or
his
2
wife.
years,
It's his wife.
He needs to take that up with his wife.
Oh,
Which,
I
by
get
the
you.
way, when Will is out doing his thing, because
Yeah.
I understand it goes both ways.
Yeah.
It's open.
It's
right?
open,
Both ways.
right? So you know what? The same way, Jada's got to eat crow when Will is in love for the 5th or 6th time. It's the same way Will's got to eat it. So I get all of that. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, to walk up on stage and slap somebody is just, not only is it out of character, it's in poor taste. They were both in poor taste last night.
It's violence. And I mean, I wonder then to an extent, like how much of this was about him and his ego, right? And being like, all right, like I've been put through the ringer. People have laughed at me because I cried or I got called, X, Y, and Z for showing emotion. When certain things were, out in the open in a public forum.
Yeah.
And, imagine if you're like behind closed doors ever to hear from your spouse, whether or not it goes both ways, like it's still a hurtful thing because there's open relationships and there's different varied levels of it, but emotionally I think they're like an emotionally monogamous couple who have like outside, I think is how I understand it, different from polyamory where you have multiple emotional connections. So we have to understand what's their definition of cheating, because sex could be sex, but when it comes to communication and our connection, that is what makes our relationship still like work, is that we have emotional trust and focus. We got each other when it comes to those needs. But the rest is just kind of part of the lifestyle that they've agreed on, and that's fine. So maybe this was also more about him feeling betrayed that it came up the way it did.
Right.
And, imagine processing that
And
behind
there was an
closed
emotional
doors.
component too with one of them. So yeah.
So it could be an ego thing where it just finally was like, if not for his wife, could also be looked at, hey, it was just trying to be like, all right, you're not going to keep like punking me and think that there's no repercussions. But regardless, that was not that is not a way to handle it, right? There's ways to handle confrontation using your words or actions that don't need to feed this, because you just kind of gave Chris Rock a little bit more like sympathy from others, if anything. And he just looks like, well, look, he took that and kind of went in stride. We don't know what happened, but so that tells me it was a very impulsive. He was not able to control his what he was doing. The filters weren't there, and that could be in a depressed emotional state. I don't know.
So saying that, I'm going to bring up something Ray mentioned earlier. Do we believe that still happens if somebody else cracks that same joke? And I don't know if it does. So maybe Chris Rock is like the trigger. I don't know, but like had that joke come from someone else, is Will going to let it fly like that?
Well, they got
a
history.
Female? What if it was
exactly
female? Right.
Exactly.
What if it's a female presentation, right? A presenter who maybe he has connections to had been making jokes about her. How would that have gone down?
Yeah, there was, and they made a joke, and that's lit. They laughed. He was like, no. They were like, oh, Will Smith. She was like, Regina Hall was like trying to get all the single guys. And she was like, oh, Will Smith, you're married. Oh, no, never mind. Jada said you can come up here and sign you off. And he was like, no, like that. So, it happened already. He didn't go up there and smack her. But
watch the video, Puja. Watch the video.
But
check the
I
video
need to.
No, you definitely do. But everyone hates Chris. So anyway.
He had the show. He did have the show. I watched it a little
Exactly.
bit.